When did you first meet Rick?
Oh, Christ. I don't know. I was probably in ninth grade, which was 80, 79, 80, something
well
like
back.
that. Yeah.
Were you doing anything musically yet?
Well, I had played a little bit of bass with Mike Rhodes, Spider, and Harry Arsenault and them guys. They were the Nocturnes at the time. And then somehow I ended up getting into the singing thing. I don't know when that happened.
Yeah, a few years later was
Yeah.
something we were doing.
Yeah,
Another
I ran into
band.
these guys, and we threw together 11 tunes real quick to play at a party. It was like a week's practice, and
Ended
that's
up with
when I
this
first
big metal
started.
band. It was
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
That was when I first started singing. And since then, that's been, what, 7 years?
Yeah,
Something
somewhere
like that.
7.
Were you there for the first Rom Boys performance?
Well, no. I'll say no because I'm not really sure, but I'm not going to say yes because I don't remember it.
Were you there for that?
I don't know if I was there for that, the very first one.
Well, I'm thinking of the one where they warmed up for Friction into Soup's Arcade, or Dr. Chip.
No,
no,
I wasn't there for
no,
that.
I wasn't for that one.
I thought you were going to say the Warehouse, the one that used to be on 3rd Street or whatever, right by where Corkins is.
No.
That's where.
What was the first time you saw him perform?
Man, I don't even know. It was a party somewhere. Might have been Barron's Farm.
Do you know what band it was?
No. That might have been Red Orphans.
Red Orphans.
At the time, yeah.
That sounds about
I
right.
think.
Same with you.
Because they were,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Because Ronnie was playing bass. And the night that I remember, Ronnie cut himself or something. I know it was at the farm. That's the first time I
This
saw
really takes
him.
you back. I haven't
Yeah.
even thought about this stuff for like so
Yeah,
long.
It was at the farm.
What do you think for you first? Do you think he had any influence in what you're doing musically, or?
Oh yeah, Ricky
inspiration?
had all kinds of influence over me. The first year, my first summer out of high school, we all moved to the beach, and he and I were pretty tight. I mean, we had our differences through the years, and we've even fought. But yeah, he's had a big influence on my life, both musically and just the way I think. Can
you give any examples on, we say how you think, things he's done or said? Or
Well, a lot of people always thought Ricky was just off the wall, and
Yeah, somewhere out.
everybody always said,
left
"Man,
field."
he's deep." And I don't know, he was never like that with me. He was just a tight, close friend with me. I mean, he was somebody that I could call up and talk to if I had a problem with a chick or whatever, or with my parents. As a matter of fact, at one point, my parents thought Ricky and I were gay because I kept a journal at the shore, and in one part of the journal it said, "Ricky, I love you," and my mother found that and thought we were gay. But
that's something that sticks in my mind. Like, he's like one of the few guys I've known that ever said, "I love you" to me.
yeah, he could say that without any apprehension. If he loved you, he loved you.
Yeah, he's
genuinely.
really secure about himself. When it comes down to it, he's not afraid to say anything to anybody.
Yeah.
He's real honest about whatever his feelings and his
everything-
outlook on life is
Everything
very
he
honest.
ever said to me was genuine. I believe that. Yeah.
What about you? Has he influenced what you did musically?
I think musically he's had more than my outlook on life. I would say musically he's had a big influence because when we first started, we did a lot of opening jobs with his band, and I don't know, we were pretty young compared to Rick, so it was like Rick's cool as shit, and it just one of those type of things is how it just kind of blossoms from there, I guess.
Let's see. Go back to you.
There was a time when I wanted all the attention that he had. That's what, you know what I mean?
How do you think like what he did with his bands affected or related to the music scene locally? How his compared to what was here?
Ricky he just wanted to be the music scene. He didn't think there was anything else.
Yeah, really, that was it.
Rick
It was Rick.
Yeah.
And whatever Rick was doing.
There was a point when it was Sex Kings from Outer Space. There was a point where Ron Boy was playing with them, and he wasn't even really playing guitar. He was just there to be part of the show.
But he always carried a guitar with him.
Yeah, he
It
had
was
the
one
guitar
of
the
those
whole
type
time.
of things. He'd stand on stage and perform with this outrageous wig and a jock strap with a baseball that hugged down 2 feet. or something really bizarre like that.
I think Ricky almost a lot of times was more interested in theatrics. Well, I shouldn't say that because his music.
No,
meant a lot
because
to
his
him, but his theatrics were something else. I mean, he was just.
Were you there for the Shirley's performance of the Sex King?
No, I wasn't there, but I heard a lot of good things
What
about it.
about you? Were you there?
I was there for a few minutes of it, and then I was asked to leave, so I didn't see that much of it.
But did you see any of the Sex King performances?
Quite a few
At
at
the-
different parties, and
Did they ever play the Chestnut?
I think
I
yeah,
think
they
so,
played the
yeah.
Chestnut
Yeah.
Street a couple
Yeah, 'cause
times,
that's the night
which
they
was
got in a fight up there.
pretty interesting. I don't know. I would say Ricky, just overall, you know, whatever he was doing, he really seemed to put his heart and soul into it.
Yeah.
And lyrically,
Just painting whatever.
you know, he really expressed, you know, speaking from a musical standpoint, you know, he really expressed everything he felt inside, you know, like he completely lived and believed everything he was writing so strongly, and it was really evident if you could talk to him or even just watching him perform.
How would you describe like the attitude he projected when he was performing?
Cocky.
Very cocky and quite bizarre.
Cocky.
You know, to the average onlooker or listener, some of it was pretty bizarre.
Yeah.
He definitely had his own way of doing things and his own demeanor about him.
Can you try to like describe the type of music he wrote? And keep in mind that people that hear this, you know, they might know it from jazz to, you know, they have no reference to what it's about.
Gosh.
Definitely a hybrid of somewhere between rock, you know, even with a little flair of country, and some alternative outer space.
His influences went everywhere
Yeah,
from
James
young
Brown,
Iggy Pop, yeah, James Brown to classical jazz and
Eno and Fripp, you know,
all kinds of
really
influences,
broad.
man.
Can you, what do you think how Iggy Pop influenced how?
Well, Ricky did. He imitated him a lot when he danced on stage and whatnot. I think there was times
Yeah, there was
that
definitely
he wanted,
some symbolism there between Ricky and Iggy. I think.
Yeah, he wanted to be Iggy.
Yeah, I think he wanted to be Ig, or actually thought he might be Ig at one point in time.
And he did it well. Too.
Yeah,
He
quite.
was-
How do you think that affected his life as far as, you know, how Iggy was self-destructive and everything?
I think younger Rick went with the self-destructiveness,
Yeah.
but as he grew up a little bit, you know, you could see it in the different bands.
He was.
You know, he kind of mellowed out in some aspects, as being, you know, the self-destructive part wasn't really there.
Yeah, and I don't think that was all. I mean, the past couple years before he passed away, man, he was the picture of health. I thought.
Yeah,
I mean,
really.
He was in perfect
Constantly
shape.
riding his bike, lifting, you know, in real good
he
shape.
was,
Had a
yeah.
good mental attitude, better than
Yeah.
I'd seen him with for years.
And that's why it shocked me so much. You know, I had no idea.
For the people that some people suspected it might have been self-destruction, would you say that it's definitely not, or?
No, I wouldn't say that. I won't say that because I
Yeah,
don't know.
I couldn't say that either, because I think Ricky loved life too much.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
don't
and
think it was on purpose, but then again, it could have been because
you never know.
there for a while we lost touch, and I mean that happens between friends. But I really don't believe that he would have done that to himself. If he did, it's a surprise to me.
Yeah, it seems really hard to conceive.
Yeah.
You know, like knowing Ricky as well as I did, I can't see him taking his own life.
Yeah. I don't-
It just doesn't seem. You know, there's nothing there.
Can you describe for people who may have never seen him, I mean, what his live performance looked like? I mean, the antics he did or something.
Just raw power, man. That's all he was. He was raw energy.
Quite raw.
It was like somebody,
flying.
if you
all
can
over
make a
stage
correlation,
and,
man, it's like somebody doing a gram or 2 grams of cocaine
and just going off.
and just flying off. You know,
And that was a natural high, though. It wasn't drug induced.
Yeah,
You know, generally
was
when he was on stage, he was just
pumped.
you know so pumped from
He was pumped.
the atmosphere of the crowd and just being there and being in the music that it really just set him off.
What about drugs in the early part of his life? I mean, how much did that play into
I
things?
think he went through a lot of suffering from, I mean, I can remember stories of him and his friends would sell guitars and whatnot just to get a 1/4 ounce of pot or something like that, you know.
Yeah, there was points that you know,
But
there's
like
definitely downsides
yeah.
there.
You
And
think
then
he kind
I-
of control that in the last years?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, most
I do.
definitely.
I really do.
For a while, I thought he was kind of bad with it, but
Yeah,
you know, in the last 4 or 5 years, he really straightened out.
yeah, I agree. He was.
He was something else.
That's what I was gonna say.
You really, you know, if you didn't know him or you couldn't see him, it's really hard to describe him because the demeanor that he had about himself.
I'll say
and
this: it was
just
he had a lot to offer, and it was a hell of a loss for all of us. I mean, that's
I can't say anything to
Top
go
that.
beyond that.
To like get some of the other side of him, that you know he would piss people off. I mean, can you describe, you know? I mean, we don't want to just paint him as a one-sided
Well,
character.
he would
We
just.
wanna-
I remember one time we were at a party at a friend of mine's camp, and he was arguing with somebody, saying that we were all there only because this person brought a keg and that we were using him for his beer and everything. And Ricky got in my face, and we went back at each other, and he ripped my shirt, and we ended up rolling around on the ground. He could piss you off easily because he would just,
It's just
if he
he's
wanted to
so
say
cocky.
something, he would get right in your face and say it. I mean, he didn't care. It didn't matter to him. Even if he got the shit beat out of him, he wouldn't have cared because he still made his point.
That's it.
wouldn't
That
have
was
cared.
something, you know. I don't want to say he was self-centered, but when it came to making his point, it was very important to him that
That's all that mattered.
you know whatever he was saying or trying to put across got across,
Yeah, no matter
whether it
what
was
the
music
consequences.
or whatever.
Yeah.
What do you think of, like one thing from knowing him is that he had like a strong religious beliefs. Do you know anything about that or how it
Well,
played into his life?
Ricky and I talked about God a few times, and I don't like to talk about it a lot, and he's one of the few people that I ever did talk about it with, other than my mother. We always said that we liked the ideal of God, but we didn't want to think that there was some supreme being up there directing all of our lives. He had the idea that maybe we were all, I mean, if we all put all of our minds together and connect, you know, like a universal mind is what he.
Interconnect.
You know what I mean?
Something.
You know what I mean?
I really can't. I don't know. When Rick, you know, would discuss God or religion in itself,
It was intense. It was an
it
intense
was definitely
conversation.
intense conversation, and
He did
he didn't
believe.
always come full circle with it.
Yeah.
So you really couldn't.
Like I said,
You know, he believed in something, but I don't know if it was.
But he didn't
one,
like to call it God.
Yeah.
He didn't like to say, "Well, I believe in God."
How do you think he,
It was something that gave him something to hope for. You know what I mean?
how do you think he like rectified that with like the other things he did, you know, which would be offensive to a conservative Christian, say?
I don't even know how to say it. I really don't know.
I don't think that ever. Well, he didn't have any concern about. I mean, if he would, I can't even think of an example, but if he would make a Christian or whatever angry about the way he thought about God, that didn't matter to him because he knew what he believed. You know, it wasn't like he didn't have to go to church, and he didn't have to. You know, he worshipped in his own way.
What do you think about it? A lot of people said, like, you know, it was his daughter that really was the center in his life that kept him.
Ivy.
Started
Yeah,
getting on
without
the
a
right
doubt,
track.
it's definitely.
Yeah, I knew Ivy from the very beginning. She was a very big part of his life.
He
He loved it
made
very much.
an effort, regardless of you know whatever happened between him
Yeah.
and her mother. You know when they split up, it created a lot of problems for Rick. But every chance he got, you know, he's working
He
out of
was with
town
Ivy.
all week.
And I know that she loved him a
You
lot
know,
too.
he spent every
Ivy was-
second he could with her. She just, I don't know, created such a big effect on him.
Yeah.
I don't know. She straightened him out. You can definitely see that. The older that Ivy got, you know, it seemed like the better Rick treated her, and the better Rick, you know, was with her. It just seemed, you know, it was like any father and daughter.
Yeah.
The love just grew stronger and stronger.
Let's go back to the music some. As far as the other musicians around, do you think he influenced many musicians as far as just what they were doing?
You mean the bands around this area?
Yeah.
Like the Blaines and all that?
Yeah,
stuff?
especially the young bands.
I, well, again, I think he had a huge influence on a lot. I know he did me. I mean, he made me want to sing.
On
in
a
way.
few of the present bands, but you know, there's a lot of younger bands coming up, and there's a lot of more metal-oriented bands that aren't really, that haven't really been influenced by it.
The early
So
'80s, man, around this time.
That was a big time.
It was a big time for bands. I think there was a lot of talent and a lot of good songs that never got
Never
to be heard
did anything
other
just,
than in this area. And I think he had a lot to do with the inspiration to get people pumped. I remember he would come to our practices and just, you know, say, what the hell are you guys doing? What are you fucking around for? Get it done. You know, do it.
He just had a way of saying things to you that just, you know, he could strike up an action in whatever he was doing. You know, if he was saying, you know, whatever he said to you, just, you know, it meant something.
He made you want to do it. He made you want to fucking...
I don't know why. I mean, the charisma that was there was definitely played a big part, you know, but it also worked against him in some of his attitude with his being cocky and, you know, like we said before, getting a point across. When that point was to be made, you know, it didn't matter the consequences.
Were either of you there for the last Sex Machine show at the hotel when they said he'd never come back because of the language?
Because he was offending the crowd, yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
Do you remember anything of what he was saying to the audience, or have any idea why he would do that?
No, I don't remember that, but I do remember him rolling on the floor and humping the microphone stand like he always did. And he was just fucking... That's
bizarre,
Ricky.
you know.
Bizarre.
It was definitely bizarre,
and like I said
but it was...
before, that didn't... If people didn't like it, that didn't bother him. He was out to put on a show, man.
It was an
and
experience to see them play.
Whether you liked it or not, you knew that you saw Otis Vanilla and Sex Machine. You knew it. It was you'd never.
It was
forget
something
the
you
show.
weren't going to forget.
Yeah.
You know, if you saw them, it was something
Yes.
that was going to be an impression that's been made in your mind permanently,
Yep. You either hated them
or loved them.
or
but
loved them. I don't think there was any in between.
Do you know anything, whether he had any plans and musical things or anything?
Well, like I said, we had lost touch, but I couldn't say. I don't have any idea.
Well, the odd thing is, the night that he was found dead, they were supposed to play a party, or actually play a job at a swimming pool or something, and you know, nobody really knew what was going on until they found him. So, you know, beyond that, I don't really know what he had planned, but I know that they were planning to continue doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really know how far they were going to go with it.
Do you, I'll go to you first. I mean, do you remember when you found out about him being dead?
It was a major shock. I didn't believe it whenever I first heard. I think Ronnie told me, who was another of Rick's real close friends, and all I can say is shock and dismay. I don't know, I was really blown away by it. I sat around and bawled for a while, which really, you know, I loved Ricky, and I don't see myself going to tears very often, but you know, there was just something about him that really got to me.
How about you? Do you remember when you found out?
Yeah, one of my friends is he has a daughter to the coroner's stepdaughter,
Yeah.
and he called me apparently like a half hour after they had found him, and I didn't believe him. I didn't want to believe him.
Yeah, but you know, he calls.
Then I started calling around, and people verified it for me, and it
It's
didn't
just-
really hit me
it's
till
just
the
so
next
unreal.
night. Yeah. The next night there was a bunch of us, all his friends, like Rick Dumb and all them guys were at the hotel, and we ended up going up to my house, to our garage, just to drink beers and be together, you know, just to remember Ricky. And by the end of the night, I had trashed my dad's garage pretty bad. I took a baseball bat to a lot of shit, just to vent anger, you know. The liquor probably helped, you
Yeah.
know.
Just the
But I really went wild on my dad's garage.
the fact that he's gone is just really unreal, because he's been around. You know, he was such an influence and such a part of everybody's life for so long, and you know, all of a sudden he's gone.
He's gone. Yeah, we were
just-
tight, man. It wasn't an easy
yeah.
thing to deal with. You
It's
know?
really hard to believe.
I loved him like a brother. I mean, if my brother would pass away, I'd probably feel the same as I did for Ricky. Or I'd like to think so, anyhow.
Yeah, Rick definitely had a profound influence on pretty much everyone around him in one way, shape, or form, whether it was positive or negative. You know, the influence was most definitely there.
I think that with his death, he probably made us all
He made us think and realize
keeping in
some
touch
things
with
that,
each other, for one thing, because like I said, I lost touch with him, and
and I
not
think
to be
he
able
made,
to tell him that I loved him again was something that just hurt really bad.
I think he made an impression on a lot of people, you know, about drugs too, because nobody's really, you know, I'm not really sure exactly what happened in his death, but a lot of people are really thinking now before they mess with drugs much.
Let's talk a little bit about, you know, like in, like say 79, 80. I mean, didn't it seem like there was sort of like a definite cultural group that had come together around the music then, like the underground?
Oh yeah, I'd agree 100%.
It was really strange because Lewistown, as small as it is, having an underground,
Yeah, like
as large as it was actually.
Like I said before, the music, I mean, there was a lot of talent in this town, right? There still is.
There still is, yeah, but it's,
don't get me wrong.
you know, so many people have left and come and gone as far as it goes.
There's some, all that stuff was on like a compilation album or something, man,
It would just be amazing. You know, it's a shame that none of it was ever done anything with it. Most of it's like tapes laying around in somebody's garage or attic that'll never be listened to again, probably.
What about like the attitude of what was going on as far as, I mean, now things are pretty conservative as far as drugs and partying, but you know, as far as I recall, we were partying pretty heavy.
Yeah,
then.
back then, I was 9th, 10th grade, and man, I was fucking.
Every night
I'd
was
walk
a party.
down the halls of the high school and buy Beaners or Quaaludes or whatever the hell you wanted. And I remember friction shows at Rec Park Pool. I remember this vividly. Scott Plesh and I were really into the punk scene, you know, Pistols,
slam dancing. And
we had a half gallon of this really cheap blended whiskey, and we drank it all while Friction played there, and we were slamming up against the chain link fence.
There's always people.
And just being nuts.
Yeah, just completely crazy.
But
it seemed like there was always blood.
There was always raw power. I love that term. I love to say raw power because
it's really, I don't know, raw power is a good thing to put with Ricky because they go together so well.
It's too bad he had used it before he did, because it fit really well.
You think out of that scene though, he was like one of the main.
I would think he's a big contributor there, one of the biggest.
Yeah.
You know, as far as having an influence on an entire group
of people,
I would say Ricky, you know,
Rick
really had a big influence on the underground. He created the underground nearly.
I wouldn't.
I mean, I wouldn't go quite that far, but he did take it to a new level.
For me, it was Rick and Friction, and that was all. You know.
That was all that mattered for years and years.
I listened to the Pistols and all that stuff, but that was, you know, just the fact that that was a local thing, man, made me.
There was the energy and
so
power in it was so raw and so, you know, you just had to have it. If you'd been to the shows, you just wanted
made
to
you
have
want to be
it.
a part of it. That's what it did.
You feel like there definitely was like some kind of community, like a little.
Oh
yeah, without doubt, because you know we all started partying together. And just hanging out together.
Yes.
You know, there's still now, there's like a group of us called the Family. There's like 20 or 30 of us that were pretty much all part of that group.
Sure.
I have to get around the car. Okay, whenever you're ready.
This is The Extreme of Personal Liberation by Rick Barker. The dangerous mind is around the corner, waiting for exhaustion to set it free. A heart beats fire, its light seems closer, a thread is burning, the cuts they bleed. When the thought of death becomes a promise, and escape is the reason you want to stay, the time is now and the weight is upon us, and death won't let you quietly slip away. Crack the concrete that surrounds your head, with motion so fast the eye can't see. Soon the promise of life is dead, will the promise of death set us free? Darkness. Darkness didn't fall this evening. It slid over me, like a secret panel I've been searching for. Darkness. Rick Barker.
Are you ready? You still going?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, we'll see it here. This is called You're So Alone. and subtitled I'm Like You. You're so alone with white lies and loved ones. You can't answer their questions, that they can't answer yours. Who wants to live in a memory forever? Touch all the caution, what's dead was before. Afraid of yourself, and feel the pain creeping, hate and reaction, afraid of what's known. Somewhere inside you hear the voice screaming, you shiver inside, for you're so alone. I'm like you are so alone.
Thanks a lot, guys.